Before we get into this week's episode with Kyle Ridley, I want to acknowledge that this episode does extensively talk about eating disorders and mental health. If you or someone that you know is struggling with eating disorders and mental health, please check out the links to different help and organizations down below. Discretion is advised. Enjoy this week's episode. Welcome, everyone, to Everyone's a Little Queer. This week, we have a two-time Emmy Award-winning journalist, producer, 2025 SpeakerCon winner, new podcast of the year, and Ridley of Ridley Media, LLC. Kyle Ridley's with us today. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yes, excellent. And you are doing wonderful things, stepping out into your new journey. And we're going to talk about that with your new podcast, Tangled with Kyle Ridley, which is so fun to listen to and so wonderful. We've enjoyed it. Yeah. Well, this is a queer podcast. We're here to talk about queer shit and enjoy it and all the stuff that's out there. And I've enjoyed getting to learn a little bit about your journey through listening through your podcast. And you're usually on my side. And so now we get to talk to you about being on your side here. And so where did your journey start for you when you started figuring out different sexualities and gender, and how did that happen?
I would say I was always the, stereotypical gay kid. If you're thinking about, the awkward gay kid in school, I was sort of the chubby kid, and I was feminine, and I was closest to my mom, and all my friends were females. But It was the 90s, and there was a lot of, there still is, but there was a lot of prejudice, and there was also not as much knowledge. So it was back in the day where the coming out process was probably a bit slower than it is now. So you deny it for a long time, and then maybe you come out to a close girlfriend, but you say you're bisexual. Then you have your girlfriend in school for a little bit, and then by the time you're graduating, you're in college, then you're like, okay, I just like guys. But also at that time, what I found really interesting is that, I don't know how old you are, but in the 90s, it was almost like bisexuality wasn't a thing. It was like, that's an excuse. And I'm glad to see over the last 25 years or so, we've really embraced bisexuality and every other letter in the LGBTQIA plus.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in my mid 30s. I did grow up in the 90s. I grew up with a group that we had one of two openly gay people in our school that was part of our group. But we had such a diverse group of people, and it was never a thing for us. But yeah, there was never this, it was so taboo back then, right? You're like, I can't be gay because I can't, but I can't also be something else because I don't know where I fall into. And I do think now, as you've said, we embrace all the other letters and the abilities out there. And it really, I think, is helping people kind of step into their light at a younger age.
Yeah, and actually be friends with fellow gay kids. Back in my day, it was really about denial. And even if someone was out, you weren't friends with other gay kids in school. I think shows like Heartstopper now and much more representation on television, I see the youth embracing each other and being openly out, which I find heartwarming, but not back in my day.
Yeah, no. I mean, not even back. I mean, I graduated high school in 2008.
I'm 41, so I was 2003.
Yes. And so it was that you didn't have, if you were the gay kid, you were the gay kid. And, there's, I think, less bullying now on sexuality. At least, I mean, I have two kids, and they're one in middle school, one in elementary school. And my husband and I volunteer all the time for school stuff. And all these kids all the time are like, oh, there's their dads, and that's it. And they move on. They don't even think twice about it. Whereas, like, if that would have been while we were growing up, or even in, the younger generation while we were, in school, it would have been like, oh, they have gay dads. And then that's where they're coming after you for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know there's bullying is still rampant, but I think it's lessened a little bit as far as, triggering or targeting gay kids.
I think so. Yeah. And I see a lot more kids, living authentically, wearing what they feel projects themselves. And I'm showing, we look at all these other kids as they walk around and they come out of school or whatever. And I look and I'm like, this is a kid who's just being themselves. And it's so heartwarming to see that kids have that group, that tribe of people who are able to allow them to express that way now. We didn't have that.
Absolutely.
I love that. So when you, obviously 90s, not the best time to come out. I mean, you didn't have RuPaul sashaying away on every other episode of RuPaul Drag Race, against the world every other week.
No, we had the RuPaul talk show on VH1.
Yeah. And that aired once a week. Now you can watch Drag Race every day of the week.
Yeah, there was not much representation in the 90s. Later in the 90s, we had Will and Grace, and Rosie O'Donnell started to come out, and Ellen came out, but basically a lot of the people I saw who were gay on TV was The Real World. I was a big fan of The Real World, so that was a
Okay.
big thing for gay people to be on MTV every week, represented in real life. But other than that, I think a lot of the people that we saw on TV were very one-dimensional and very stereotypical gay characters that fit
Yeah.
one mold. And so I think also for people of our age, it also felt like we were hard to connect because it was like, well, I'm not that. So what am I? Who is
Yeah.
my tribe? And now with social media and so much representation, we can easily find our community and our tribe without having to struggle and worry and figure out who we are without, much connection.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not a social media person by any means. I think there's so much to it, and that's like a whole other conversation. But I think one of the good things with social media, like you said, is it allows people to go out, find their tribe or find the group in the community that kind of fits them more, because we're not all that stereotypical. Sean from Will and Grace, that very flamboyant, running around, has our girlfriend. I sort of am a little effeminate there, but that's just me. That's not even my husband. My husband, you would look at him every other day and you would have no idea, and that's just who he is. And it's wonderful to be able to find and allow for all of these different people to find what works for them and who they belong to.
Yeah, and I came out right around the emergence of the internet. So for me, it was chat rooms, AOL chat rooms,
Yes.
and Yahoo chat rooms, and then there was Craigslist before there was any apps.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
before my time, you really just had to go to bars, or there were even ads in the paper. People forget
Yeah.
this stuff. And maybe it just came with a look that you gave someone.
Oh, yeah.
We've progressed a lot. There's still a lot of work to do, but we've definitely progressed as far as how we can meet people.
Definitely. I definitely feel like your, generation of queer, of trying to find other people, was like took what was in the 70s and 80s of cruising and kind of elevated it a little bit to, like you said, chat rooms or Craigslist, even just like walking around more, just being a little bit more comfortable out there. And yeah, that's how you met people. There was no apps. We didn't have shirtless abs, at the swipe of our finger. And yeah, that's...
No, we didn't even have cell phones. I remember I went to a payphone to call someone, like the first person I ever met, because I didn't want my mom to know I was calling anyone.
So you said you came out later in your teen years, right? I believe 17, 18?
I was 17, yeah. And I am the oldest of 7 children. And
wow.
my first relationship was someone much older. So maybe not the most appropriate relationship, but I think I always felt like, more mature, or like an old soul. But
Right.
my mom had no idea what was going on. And also this was the dawn of the internet. So she didn't know there was all this stuff, what I was doing online, who I was chatting with.
Yeah.
It was a very, secretive world back then. So maybe some questionable stuff that I did back then, but everything is safe. But yeah, it was meeting people in their car to meet for a first date or figuring stuff out. It was wild. And then I ended up dating someone for 6 years that was 20 plus years older than me when I was 17.
I feel like that's so common though, during that time, during that era, right? Because of kind of what you said, you're trying to fit into this queer world, and you find somebody who's a little bit more mature, that's been around the queer world maybe a little bit longer, and you kind of attach to that a little bit of saying, well, maybe you can teach me. It's like that subconscious of like, if I'm with this person, they can show me myself.
Yeah, and I think you're also scary. So it's like, I have this person, let me cling to them, and then I don't really have to go explore this unknown world any further.
Right. Yeah. And it does lead to sometimes the questionable things, being safe, but questionable actions.
Yeah, it also led to, I think, me isolating a lot, because we weren't in the scene at all either. So it's sort of like I went from one long-term relationship to another. So I didn't really discover my tribe or my community until my late 30s. Yeah, when I got divorced.
Right. Oh, yeah. And so you were with said person, what you said, for 6 years.
Yeah, I was in a relationship from like 17 to 22 or 23. And then, I finished college, started working, and then I met my ex-husband at 26. And we were together 12 years. And we divorced 3 years ago. So I was like 38. But we were never in the scene. We didn't have gay friends. That was actually sort of a conflict among us for a long time, because he felt very outside of the scene, didn't really identify. I think many people of our era, unfortunately, do see gay men in a stereotypical way if they haven't immerse themselves in it to find their
Yeah.
tribe. So that was always the thing. I was like, oh, all our friends are straight or family, and who are we going to grow old with? Who are we going to meet as all of our
Yeah.
straight friends get married and move away and have kids? So as soon as I got divorced, I really just delved into that world and made it a point to find a community. So it wasn't all about hooking up or anything, but I got on the apps and I, do coffee dates or dinner dates and get a drink. And then I've really built up a really huge, nice community. We have trivia Tuesdays, we go dancing.
I love
You
that.
have to put yourself out there, but there is a tribe for everyone.
I've always been a very, everyone will tell you Bernard's never met a stranger, and that's just who I am. I'm always friends with everyone. I love making friends. I built this huge chosen family of both sides, gay, straight, and everybody in between. And my husband, he came from a more conservative family. So he never really got to do the whole going out stuff, and kind of like what you're saying, immersing himself in that tribe. And once we got together, I was like, I want to go out. I want to go meet people. I want to be around other queer people. And we've started really over the last 2-3 years just growing this chosen family to be where it's all platonic relationships, but we're all a part of this community that we can relate to in some sort of way. And it's been beautiful. And so, especially in the current climate of where we're at in the world, it's been very helpful to like be able to lean on each other that way. You got to have that outside of family and your significant other.
Absolutely. Yeah. I find it a beautiful thing. And it doesn't even, I think I missed out on a lot of just gay experiences from teens, 20s, and even 30s, just not going out or being very focused on family and work and my husband or whatever relationship I was in. But getting to explore and go out and dance and discover unknown parts of myself that I haven't tapped into, it's a beautiful thing. And, it doesn't always have to just be platonic. I certainly had a period of just going out and having fun, like fun. Like I see these people in their 20s and I'm like, oh, I never did any of that. I never went to Fire Island. I never got to party and go on the beach and just have debaucherous nights. So it's nice to get a taste of that, even if it's older.
Oh, yeah. And I don't think that there's any age on going out and having a good time. I mean, you got to find out what's going to work for you, because we just went to Provincetown for Pride last year. That was our first time. My husband's from there. He's from Massachusetts, from Boston area. Never went. And I was like, let's go have fun and see what this is about. We stepped off the ferry and I was like in love. I never wanted to leave. And I was like, where has this been? I'm in my 30s. Where has this been all my life where I can actually go out to these dances and these social events and wake up tomorrow and not feel like shit? That instead of having to recover now for 2 days is where I'm at.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, it's wonderful. Well, we know, so you come out late in life, and I wouldn't say late, just a little bit later than I think maybe you wanted to. And did you have, what do you think?
I was always out, but out in terms of living out loud, but I was
living
always
out loud
to people.
Yeah, that's one. I mean, it's wonderful, but now you're getting to live your true authentic self. As you were coming through your queer journey, though, younger, being out to out there, as you say, to a point, though, did you have any like struggles with yourself and with life just in general? Like, was anything like affecting you of like, I'm not, especially through through your marriage and everything, did you have any of those struggles of like self-identity or health crisis, anything like that?
I would say, well, yes, I would say my struggles, particularly with my first relationship, was thinking that I had everything in control. A 17-year-old dating someone in their 40s. You downplay it, and looking back 25 years later, it's a little alarming. But because I think I was in such an adult relationship at such an early age and just jumped in so fast that it was almost like a marriage, and we both had our struggles. He struggled with severe depression, and I ended up in my early 20s developing a pretty severe eating disorder. And I think it was just an accumulation of just not being able to fully identify with myself and everything that was churning within, and then trying to keep everything control within the house, whereas he was sick and struggling. And how is a 17, 18-year-old supposed to help someone struggling with mental illness? It's not really something that can be forced upon anyone. They have to seek treatment and get help themselves. So in the midst of all that, I did develop an eating disorder, and I think it just stemmed from lifelong, again, being the chubby, husky kid, the gay kid, getting bullied. And then I think there's a familial component. I have family members that have struggled with eating disorders, and had witnessed it unknowingly in a couple of family members. So I always knew like there was something that could be done. I would
Yeah.
be the type that'll go on a crash diet every Monday. Like, okay, I'm going to start over this week. And in the 90s, it was all about fat free, and we were scared of sugar and carbohydrates, and
Yeah.
there was snack wells, and it was anything slim fast. There was a different diet every week. I tried them all, and then it soon just turned into an obsession. I started losing weight. I started working out, and I was like, oh, well, this is an easy thing to do. Binge and purge. I struggled with bulimia. So that was a
Yeah.
big component really all throughout my 20s, breaking up with that first love and then meeting my husband. I struggled with it and kept it secret for years. And my ex-husband found out 2 or 3 years into our relationship. And that is really when I started to get help. But it really consumed 7 or 8 years of my life in my 20s. And I don't ever consider myself healed, because it's just lifelong learning. You're always in
Sure.
recovery with food. But that was definitely a struggle. And then the other struggles were just connecting on a deeper level with people outside of my husband, because I was never the type to have male friends. It was always women. I really didn't even
Yeah.
have gay friends up until my late 30s. It was family and women. So that was always a struggle, an internal conflict of, am I ever going to have male friends? Am I ever going to identify with these other parts of myself and these urges? So always some mental struggle. But
Yeah.
as with a lot of, I think, gay people and people that have struggled with addiction, very high functioning, had good jobs, had good family members, stability at home, money, but internal struggle for sure.
Yeah. And that's, when we talk about any sort of um, mental health or anything like that, you get to a point, especially you said 7 years that you struggled with, your relationship with food and bulimia, you become so good at hiding it and so good at just not showing what you're going through in front of the people who are trying to, that would support you to help you, but you're like, I can't show them that.
Yeah, it's a disease of secrecy. And I've heard that the difference between privacy and secrecy is that privacy is about respect, like keeping something to yourself, protecting your peace or protecting someone else. But secrecy is ridden with shame. So it's really about hiding, living your life in secret, lies, because you're so shame ridden about what you're doing. And it's it's a horrible disease. It's a violent disease. You are making yourself physically sick on a continual basis. So it's very steeped in shame. But yeah, it was a time when my mom knew something was going on, because she knew I had struggled in my past, and I didn't see her that much, but my emaciated frame, every time I would see her at a family event, I think it just became too alarming. And she confronted my ex-husband, who was not aware that I was doing anything. It was all in private when he wasn't home, or it was in my car, or it was at a restaurant. So it was really that mini intervention that forced me to get help. And I think I was just scared of losing him and losing my life. I had health anxiety, and also just scared of never really living to the fullest, because I got to the point where I was thinking, well, maybe I won't ever get better. Because just like dieting, it was like, I'll stop on Monday, I won't binge and purge, and it just wasn't happening. And so I was getting a little scared the older I got, like, am I ever going to be able to turn the page? So that was the start of the healing and recovery, and it takes years and years and years, because you also have to retrain your brain, learn about nutrition, learn about good versus bad foods, and learn that there really aren't any bad foods. So it's lifelong work.
Yeah, I think I've heard that. I want to say probably on the Food Network. Our house is either HGTV or the Food Network. We're watching something, or watch someone cook something, or somebody build something. And I think I heard that one time, that there's no such thing as bad food. And I think about that. I do think about that quite a bit. Like when I go to grab a snack or something, and I'm like, well, it's not bad. And, you don't have to be upset about having something like this. You can still enjoy what's out there. It's just making that better decision and for where you're at and stuff.
Exactly. And it's moderation. And sometimes I, will still probably binge a meal that's huge, but I also am fully aware of it. I know that I'm going to sit inside and order a big meal and enjoy myself, and I'll feel stuffed and maybe a little like sluggish, but I know I'll get a good night's sleep and I can eat healthily the next day. And it's not about beating myself up or running the toilet or obsessing over it. It's choices, and it's conscious, and knowing how I'll feel. And there are certain foods that I still won't eat, just because I know, oh, that's going to make me feel not great, and I'm not craving that. I'd rather fill up on this. So it's constant. It's unlike drugs or alcohol, where you never can touch the thing again. You're touching food every day. So it's not like, when people say, like, are you recovered or are you healed? It's like, I am fully aware of everything I'm putting into my body at all times. You can't let that go. It's never going to disappear. Yeah. So in a way, it's knowledge and acceptance. And so that's sort of where I'm living.
So you said you're oldest of seven. Your mom is the one who kind of recognized. So are you and your mom close then? I mean,
Yeah,
if you said you don't see her often and she sees you one time and goes, "Hey, something's up," so you guys must be close.
we're very close. And she, all my brothers are half brothers. So my dad left when I was 1. And so all of my brothers after are from my mom and my stepdad. So I've
Okay.
always just been a mama's boy, and
Yeah.
we still text all the time. And she's one of the people that I am comfortable sharing my struggles with. And this year I sort of made a goal to open up because, as you said, I've always been on the other side of the camera, sharing other people's stories. But
Yeah.
men do not talk about eating disorders. It's up to 25% of men struggle with eating disorders. And every time I got a pitch, working in TV, I got
Yeah.
thousands of pitches, and many of them would be for National Eating Disorder Awareness Month or stuff like that. And it was always women as the spokesperson, never, ever a man. But it's common, and it's not just starving yourself or making yourself throw up. There's eating disorders in people that look normal or have huge muscles. There's an obsessive component to all of that, to look a certain way. There's restriction
Right.
involved. There's addiction, whether it's over exercising or taking supplements that may not be good for you. It really runs the gamut. So I think it just needs to be brought to the surface more because it's really kept in the shadows. And men don't usually accept or acknowledge their symptoms until it's progressed severely as far as health goes.
Yeah, I think, when I was setting up to interview and getting everything together, don't know much about this kind of, bulimia or anorexia or anything. And I started looking into just specifically for men and everything. And the numbers were kind of astounding to me. That's because, like you said, what's always projected is it's women. There's women have the disease, men don't have the disease. So it's wonderful that you're out here, we're talking about it. And, why do you think though that men are, do you think they just try to hide it, or are they better at hiding it, or is it just a shame thing, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's very shame-based. I think it's a big stigma. I'm sure there's still parents like this, but you're raised to be the tough one of the group. And men still they struggle with sharing their feelings and opening up. And LGBTQ people are at a higher risk for eating disorders, especially men. But it runs the gamut. It's also straight men. I think we're just raised with that component. Like, you are the leader, you're the strong one, and to admit that you're shame-ridden or have body dysmorphia, uncomfortable with yourself, not being confident is not looked highly upon, especially with men. So yeah, I think that's where it stems from. But it goes on way too long, and I've had many people reach out privately and say that they've struggled with it. But again, it's not being posted about, or they're not really having these conversations in person. So I hope that we can open the dialogue.
Well, I think just with any sort of, mental health out there, period, it's the more people talk about it, the less taboo it becomes, right? I mean, look, gay people, we used to be it was a mental disease, right? Oh, they like men who like men and women who it used to be a mental disease. It's not. Sometimes we're just who we are. Sometimes that's a struggle. We have struggles, and it's just having that communication and having that talk and being able to be open about it makes it less taboo, and more people to go, hey, you know what? I think I'm a part of this, right? Or I think I struggle with this, but I never knew that. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I think when you live in secrecy, you're living with such a heavy burden. You're carrying that weight for so long, and sharing your story not only helps you, but it's going to help others. So I think opening up and sharing what's within only good can come of it. I mean, who's going to shame you for admitting struggles? I think more people are going to identify you with anything.
And I think if you have somebody in your tribe, your group that does shame you, then that person's probably not a good person to have in your tribe and group. If they're not trying to help you, like when you're going, hi, I'm down here, I'm at rock bottom, I need help right now, and they are like, okay, well, pull it together. That's not the people we need supporting us.
Yeah, in any form of struggle. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what are some, like, again, your mom recognized it quick. Your ex-husband who you were living with didn't even recognize it. What are some signs out there of like, hey, maybe, eating disorder, because again, food, like you said, we touch every single day. We have to. What are some signs out there that we look for that you think this is kind of your experience that you saw with yourself?
For me, it was being extremely particular about food, studying labels, nutrition labels, not going out. I avoided social events for so long, years. I would not go to dinners. If so, I'd have to study the menu beforehand. How they order was always a sign for me, like this on the side, don't include this, no oil, no butter, no breaded stuff, no fried. So the orders are pretty particular because you are obsessed with it. You will notice one crumb of something that shouldn't be there. uh, eating alone was a big thing for me. Just saying you weren't hungry, saying you already ate. I mean, and obviously, I looked. I looked like I had a problem, but so many people with eating disorders, you cannot tell. They look like normal, or they even have a few more pounds. It's not about being super, super thin all the time. A lot of times it's just about control and soothing yourself. So the act of binging is almost your reward. It's your high. So it's became my reason for life. So it became, if I had a stressful day, okay, I deserve this. I can binge, I can purge. I had an award, I had a big accomplishment, binge and purge. Oh, my friend is doing bad, we're in a fight, binge and purge. It becomes what you live for. It's your number one priority. And then I mean, I really got deep with my secrecy. So it would always be, I would take a long drive home from work because I would be eating in my car. I would pull over the side of the road and eat. Sometimes I would go to a buffet, and I could always spot someone with an eating disorder because they would be sitting alone, and they would often be smaller in frame. Or a lot of times I would see women who were just skin and bone, but eating by themselves at a buffet and getting amounts of food. It was like almost like a secret language. And we're in a bad place right now because now we are in this era of GLP-1s, and you see celebrities. It's almost like we're returning to the 90s with heroin chic and being rail thin. And now there's just a shot, and you see these skeleton celebrities that look on the edge of death, and it's frightening. Like, what's the turning point going to be? It's everyone's celebrating it right now, but there's got to be a tipping point.
Yeah, we work with some people who definitely, I mean, they we know they're on the shot. You can see it. We call it, you have the, like, we call it the Ozempic face, right? You get that skin and bone, that kind of like, because it eats away so much muscle. I'm like, you can't just do that and call it good. You got to still work out or kind of up a little bit on what you're eating, just enough to be able to not allow it to eat away all the healthy parts that are inside of you. You're right. We kind of have reversed a little bit back to those 90s of the skinny supermodels and, being thin and having all of this real skinny look instead of just being natural and just having like, this is what everybody looks like and being there.
Yeah, it's like a pendulum. Like, we have these eras of celebrating skinniness, and then it swings to like, we love big butts and we love body positivity and voluptuousness, but we're swinging back in the wrong direction right now.
I think so. Yeah. We have a couple of friends who decided out of nowhere they were going to start that. And I looked at them and was like, okay, well, once you start, also, you can't stop, because it's one of those things that, like, as soon as you stop it, your body goes into shock and starts like hoarding everything. And you got to have an even balance. So it's kind of, we're on that pendulum swing onto the other side, unfortunately. So,
along with everything else bad happening in the world.
Oh my God, I know. You just wake up every day and you go, what the fuck today? But hey, we're surviving. We're getting through it. We're enjoying, and you're surviving and enjoying, and you have a new relationship, right?
Yeah, I've been seeing someone a little over a year and a half now. It's new for me. He's around my age. So my ex-husband was 5 years older. This person is just a year, but it's different because he is also newly out. So he came out at 40. He was married to a woman for many years, and he has 2 children. And he's another one that sort of closed himself off at an early age, just did not accept it, and now finally living his true life in his 40s.
And that's wonderful to hear. It's beautiful to hear stories like that. I mean, I've been bisexual since I was like 12 years old. I didn't know, like we talked earlier, I didn't know there was a term for it. I just had kissed a girl once, enjoyed that. Kissed a boy once, enjoyed that. And I was like, wow, this is confusing as shit. I enjoy all of this. But there was no term for it until I didn't even know bisexual was a term until I was like in my 20s. Just wasn't something that I had ever heard. But yeah, when I divorced my ex, I just for years lived with just me and my kids, and until I dated a couple people here and there, just didn't really find it, and then found my husband and just could not imagine somebody other than that. So it's been great to have that for us. So
it's beautiful.
I love it. It's gay love. That's what we say, gay love.
How long were you married the first time?
Married the first time, I was married for 5 years. 5 years. We were together for 9. So we were together for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, we realized in our life, we just wanted different things, and amicably we're like this. We tried everything. We didn't give up. As there's a lot of people our age that kind of just end it quick, I've noticed, but we tried. I mean, we tried counseling, we tried therapy, we tried, all these different things. We just were like, you know what, we're just in different minds of life that we wanted. And it's been nice to find somebody with my husband who just sees the world as I see it and wants to see the world the way that I do. Like, we love traveling and we love meeting people and enjoying new adventures, and that's that's what we like to do. So it's been wonderful.
Yeah, that's great. You found your partner.
I know, it's wonderful. Yeah. So, and your new partner here, father of two, right? Because he has two kids.
Teen.
Yeah.
Well, 11 and 14.
11 and 14, fun ages.
Mm.
So has he introduced you into that? How did that go for you on that side? I'm curious.
Yeah, it was interesting. I definitely wanted to delay. I wanted to wait at least a year. And so I met them over the last summer, and it's been nice. I have never really wanted kids. I think maybe being the oldest of so many, I felt like I had my fill. I do have 3 rescue dogs, and those are my children. But it's just been, I've been keeping it very simple. So I'll go over. We went bowling. We'll go to dinner. I'll go over and make dinner with them, or we'll watch TV. But it's clear that I'm not their parent. They have 2 great parents, and they co-parent together beautifully. I'm sort of just there. They're comfortable. It's interesting because that age, it like you said, it's not a big deal. It's like, oh, okay, this is my dad's boyfriend. He obviously had to come out to them, and it was not like a shock. It was just like, oh, okay, cool. I know some kids in my school whose parents are also gay. So I love that about the new generation. But I'm pretty, hands off. I know that I'm not there to be a caregiver. I'm just there to be the cool guy who's around. And if they need anything, they can let me know. But yeah, I bring over my dogs, and we just have a nice time.
That's so beautiful. That's exactly, I think, how it should be. And I have so much respect for you, Kyle, and the fact that you're like, I wanted to wait a year. My now husband, I am protective of shit of my kids. When we first really started dating, he was not, if I had the kids at the house, he wasn't coming over. We weren't going out. We weren't doing anything for a long time. And I think it was probably 8 or 9 months until I was like, okay, I kind of want to introduce the kids to you, but slowly, kind of like what you said, just here and there and whatever. And then by the end of it, he was very integrated into my life. And I remember I talked to the kids when I was going to propose, because my husband, Mark, he had always said, like, I'm not going to propose to you because you've been married and you tell me adamantly you don't want to get married again. And I didn't. I had like such a dark cloud around marriage. I was like, why can't we just be together without all of that? And so he was like, if you ever want to, then you can propose. He goes, because I'll marry you tomorrow if I want it, if we could. And so I had talked to the kids years later and was like, hey, so what do you think about, I'm going to ask Mark to marry me, and he'd be like a stepdad. And my son looked right at me and goes, oh, I thought you were married already. He's around all the time. And I was like, you would be there, dude. You would know. Yeah. It's great to be able to slowly introduce that into there, and I think what you're doing is just absolutely perfect and beautiful in every way.
Thank you. How long have you been together?
We dated for a little bit in 2018 to 2019. And then he will tell you, and he will tell everyone, that I broke up with him because I said, get your shit together and figure out your life. And we talk about that. We do everyone kept asking. So we do an episode with him, and he really goes into it about, like, just, again, he grew up conservative with his kind of family, and it was hard for him to come out. Some stuff as he was growing up was said that still today sticks with him. It's that it sits in the back of his mind at times. So he was always afraid of that. And so there was, he relied heavily on, sometimes alcohol, as like, we get off work, he wants to drink. We're off work for the day, he wanted to drink. And I was like, I can't live a life like this. Like, I have things to do. I have to be a parent. So we kind of got in a few arguments. I was like, let's figure it out. And then we were separated for about a year. And then during COVID brought us back together. We used to do COVID dates where we would just the kids would go to bed and I would go down to the basement and turn on, my laptop, and we'd FaceTime via that and watch the same movie and sync it up. And we got really good at that. That's a skill. If you don't have that skill, learn that skill, being able to sync via FaceTime. And we just kind of started talking. It was good. So we got back together about 2020, and we got married in 23.
So wholesome.
I know, it's been wonderful, And I know you say you don't want kids, but you do. You said 3 rescue dogs, right? Holly, Addie, and River, I think it's
Ollie, Addie, and River. Yep.
Ollie. Okay. I was close. I was close.
Yeah, very close.
Yeah. What kind of dogs are they?
They're all mixed rescue mutts. So one is like a Pinkinese mix, one's a Spaniel mix, one's a Pom mix. They're all just like smushy face, cute brown dogs there. And then I also board dogs on the side because I have a nice big fenced in yard. So sometimes my house is just full of 5 or 6 dogs. I love it.
You can't go wrong with dogs, though. Not at all. Yeah. We have a golden doodle, and we say that she's just a person in a dog costume because she really is.
They are. Yeah, I've watched some of them. They're so sweet. I had one yesterday that was similar to like a doodle, and just the most loving dog. Just sat on my lap all day for daycare.
Oh, see, yeah, ours wants to cuddle and hold hands. She will come up to you and just like this all
Aw,
the time. She just wants to hold hands all the time. So
the
that's
sweetest.
wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. So when you're not being, a dog rescue and just enjoying all the furry animals, you have your podcast, Tangled with Kyle Ridley, which is you're coming up on your 1 year anniversary for that, if I remember right. How's that going?
Yeah, I think late May or early June will be 1 year, and we're coming up on 50 episodes this month. It's been great. It's been a learning curve, just the editing part. So I was a TV producer for 10 years, but I never did the editing of stuff. So I was used to researching all the guests that we would book and coming up with the questions for the anchors. But I wanted to be able to speak with guests on my own terms and do these long form sit downs like you. So 45
Yeah.
minutes, an hour, and not these 3 to 5 minute hits that are typical on TV.
Yeah.
And also I was prepping all these interviews and doing all the research for other people. So I love these people that were coming on my show, but I wanted to speak with them. And obviously with 3 minutes, you're never going to get to everything. And
Right.
arts and entertainment has always been my passion. So I've sort of taken that aspect of the lifestyle entertainment booking that I used to do and just have gone after people that I love that I want to speak with, and it's been going well so far.
Yeah, I've listened to it, and I think I love the format that you do it. And you're right, because you get to really sit down with these people and learn more about them and learn who they are. Because everyone that you've interviewed, from your best friend Nick, and then all the way through like these celebrities that you've interviewed, you treat everyone just as normal people and as a person, and it's so beautiful. And everyone should listen to your podcast as well. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, and I've also had a lot of LGBTQ people on. This week we had
Yeah.
Tim Bagley on, who was on Will and Grace and Somebody Somewhere, and he's just been an icon for decades. And he's one of the first like out gay actors. He talks about his experience coming out in the early 90s and how his managers told him, don't come out, because back then you really couldn't get work if you were out.
Yeah.
But he decided to live openly. And he also talked about going to conversions therapy and seeing a sex therapist in the 70s or early 80s, and like trying to deny it, because he talked about at that time people did tell him it was a disease, a medical diagnosis, and it was at the start of that. So those are the most like eye-opening conversations that I've had with older men, that because I think a lot of times younger generation do not know what my generation, your generation, and older have been through and what we fought for.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And you still fighting to this day, right? And
Always.
I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's just the queer community is always attacked in some sort of way, as it doesn't matter what it is. We're just vilified in some sort of way, just because I always like to say it's because I think that they're just a little jealous that they can't live as, authentically and truthful as we can. We're free just to express ourselves in any which way. That's part of the community, that we aspire to just living authentically and expressing oneself. How I see myself inside, I want to express that outside, so you see me. And I think sometimes people do. That's like Nathan Lane, right? When he came out in the late 90s and everything, I think he was told the same thing by his managers and stuff. They're like, dude, just don't do it. And now look at him, and he's wonderful. I love him so much.
I do too. I interviewed H. Alan Scott, who's a journalist, and he said that growing up watching The Birdcage specifically terrified him, because he was like, I am Nathan Lane, but now he's an adult, and he says he's literally is Nathan Lane. So yeah, it just takes some time, but we have role models always. He wasn't even out when he did The Birdcage.
No, he wasn't. I think it was the interview with Oprah that him and Robin Williams were doing, where she was kind of like trying to bait him into it. I don't know if you've seen this. And then Robin Williams runs interference and completely changes her whole conversation. It's beautifully well done. And Nathan Lane does a interview where he talks about that, how scared he was sweating so bad, because he was like, I am about to be outed by Oprah on live TV. And then Robin Williams comes in and saves the day. He goes, I never will forget how kind and caring that man was. And it was shortly after he had passed away, but it was, yeah.
I've only heard great things about Robin Williams. Margaret Cho was on my show, and she had a whole relationship with him. Yeah.
Like I said, the people you've interviewed have been just incredible to listen to, and to hear that, because it is that also, like you said, that older generation of queer people that we can take still so much education from, even though it's a little bit more open and accepting around for the most part. Still hearing all these stories that you've sent and that we've said just still educates, and it's just been absolutely wonderful.
Thank you. I actually posted a clip yesterday of Tim Bagley, who said, a lot of people, he reminds how powerful and helpful the lesbian community was in the 80s during the AIDS
Yes.
crisis, because it's always overlooked. But he lost so many friends back then, and it was the lesbians who stood up, stepped away from their full-time jobs, and at night would care for these dying men. So
Yeah.
I posted it, and so many people are sharing it, because it really is like it's becoming a lost era, and we
Yes.
don't recognize all the angels of that period.
Absolutely. And well, and I saw, browsing around on Reddit on the, LGBT sites, and somebody was like, the gays are here doing this, I don't get why it's LGBT. And I'm like, that's a failure on our community to teach you why then the L is first. The L is there because of the HIV and AIDS epidemic through the 80s and 90s, because the lesbians were there caring for all of these men when nobody else would. And they were there, and they still are there. They are still the ones. When you got a flat tire, who do we call? We call either AAA or a lesbian if we have one with a Subaru.
Exactly.
I love it, Kyle. Kind of going back. I want to go back a little bit because we did come off topic a little bit, but I want to talk more about the relationship with food, just a little bit of where can somebody that recognizes, hey, I might have an issue, or I'm starting to see some signs that maybe they can relate to. What are places that they can go for help? Because I think that's so important to be able to express those.
Well, I always suggest opening up to someone close to you. So a loved one, whether it is your mom or just a close friend that you can confide in. Not that they're going to rescue you or offer resources, but just opening up really is like the first step in acceptance. Because sometimes I think opening up to someone else is going to help you accept it within yourself, because it's so much about denial. And then as far as other resources, I've worked a little bit with the National Association of Anorexia Nervosa and Associated Disorders, and it's abbreviated as ANAD, so ANAD, and that's just ANAD.org. There's a lot of statistics, resources for help. There's obviously treatment. I did not go to in treatment, but there's beautiful ones and helpful ones, and probably maybe I should have, and I could have maybe gotten a little better faster, but you all have your own journey. I went to individual therapy, so there's outpatient treatment. I think a lot of it is just opening up and talking about it, because it is so shame-ridden and buried within, and that builds up over time. And I think just like not coming out and not really living your true self, it bottles up, and eventually it's going to explode. And in this case, rather than, going out and discovering yourself and dancing, you're going to go and get help. And that's going to it's going to be a different type of explosion. You're also going to open up new worlds, because your world is so sheltered, because you're only living for your next binge, and you're avoiding so much because you need to satisfy your addiction. That's really my goal, is just for people to take that first step, open up, speak with someone. And I think the rest will follow, because so much, you can lose so many years in just denial.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just as if somebody's hiding who they are authentically, hiding just anything is a constant, and not daily, it is hourly battle of hiding something. And it's so exhausting to hide anything. And I think you're right. Just find somebody to talk to. That's wonderful.
Yeah. And if you want to do it anonymously, there are message boards that you can find. You can find a Facebook group or another message board. I think that's helpful if you want to anonymously share your stories or just read other people's recovery journeys. There's also a lot of eating disorder and health podcasts that you can listen to. Just search eating disorder, anorexia, bulimia. You'll find several hits that you can listen to people's stories.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that. Well, Kyle, I appreciate everything. We always end with the last thing that we ask everybody, because it's so different between everyone. But Kyle, what does pride mean to you?
It's interesting, because when I was younger, I really avoided saying I was proud. And I never went to any pride festivals up until maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I think I sort of felt, in a way, it was another way of being a stereotype that I didn't identify with. But to me, pride means loving yourself, because I probably didn't until my late 30s and early 40s. I wasn't comfortable to go out in those places and be seen or identified as gay. So pride for me is really just accepting, embracing yourself, and letting yourself live a true life. I don't think we can be prideful until we accept who we are.
Absolutely. And I think that's the biggest thing for me that we advocate for, is being prideful of yourself. Just knowing that you matter. Your journey's different than my journey, than your journey, but you matter as much as I do and everybody else does. And we all matter together.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love it. Well, if you haven't already, listen to Tangled with Kyle Ridley. You can find it anywhere on podcasts. And Kyle, you have your Ridley Media LLC, where you have a lot that you do on there. I think
Oh yeah,
that's
well that's like I'm sort of taking my TV skills for the media company now, and now I help people get on TV. So it's basically media relations, like a publicist. And then
yeah.
yeah, you can follow me there, or Instagram is just my name with an underscore. Simple, Kyle Ridley.
I love it. Well, Kyle, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening to Everyone's a Little Queer. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Kyle, this was so much fun.